Hey everybody, welcome back to Konversation. This is the 16th episode.
Sure.
Amazingly. I actually looked it up and we're actually 3 months into this.
It's
been
months.
3 months. So
Wow.
this is Rick.
This is Nain.
And welcome to Konversation.
Hello, everybody.
So a couple of things came up. Somebody was watching our last video and we talked about putting a video up and I totally forgot to put the video up.
So I totally forgot to remind you about that because I said the same thing.
during some time in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit into there.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it. And since you and I both know what that video looks like, we'll talk about it now. And then when I'll edit it through, say here's the video. So here's the video. And now, so after looking at that video, we noticed a couple of things, right? We started off at long range, which is where most fights are going to start. We're out here. We both had sticks, and
we even switched positions.
Right, we were actually dancing around, and I got it so that I'm coming towards you. Now, we always talk about that we want to bridge gaps.
Yes.
As quickly as possible.
Get in there.
Just to get in there and end the fight as quickly as we can. So of course I do that.
Right.
And I got it to a point where I got in so close that I also had to be mindful of where I was putting your hands. Right? So both your hands were shoved over to that side. And in my I was here. Like I swung my stick, made sure it ended up on this side and you were there. And right when it got to here, so here's what had happened. I went here and I came right here. Now, be mindful that, or realize that I wasn't actually trying to hit you when I was coming.
No. You were getting across. You were clearing your weapon.
I was just clearing it. I was just trying to get out of the way because I knew that this was not going to be that great. And you had your stick, so I had to come in here. And here's where the magic happened. I caught this here. I actually jammed your hand both on this side. I held onto my weapon, to my stick, and I backfisted you. And to a point, that happened on it, so it was a happenstance that happened.
Right, you weren't trying to get that technique to work.
Because we know those things can't work that way.
Right.
This was just something that an opportunity came up where I was able to do that.
And if you look at the video and then the way from beginning to its end, there's no drill going on. This is how we free flow. We like the idea of free flow, so we actually train that idea, and this is what came out of that particular volley.
You know, and a lot of people thought that that was a rigged thing, that we choreographed that whole thing, and but
I used to blame him for that too, because he'd say, okay, I'm going to drop you right over there. You see that mark on the floor? Your face is going to end up on that mark right there. And it always felt like he was at home drawing out these elaborate plans of what he needed me to... And it's none of that, folks. He is far too lazy to go through the efforts of actually setting up.
That would be work.
That would be work, and he doesn't work. If it isn't fun, he's not going to do it.
Right.
So I was the same. I used to think, how does he? But he's proven it time and time again in 6.5 years.
You know, the things that we do, or the things that pop up, the things that look, ooh, how incredible! How do we do that? We can't train that. There's no way possible to train any of those things to make it come out the way it did.
Not in real time.
Not in real time.
No.
It just doesn't happen. I mean, we weren't going uber fast, but we weren't going slow either.
And we didn't have a cameraman to grab the right angle of it, so it's not like...
it is what it becomes.
Right.
And because of that, I had to think fast. Knowing that I was so close to you that the weapons were going to be useless anyways.
Right.
And using hands would be the more practical thing because I am that close.
Your intent was always clear. Your intent was always to hit me.
That I wanted to hit you.
Right.
And not necessarily with just the stick, Although the stick then became useless when I got so close.
Which is why the hand became available.
Right.
Versus...
So once I got here, I just, you know what? I'll just hold it here, and I'm close enough that I could get this nice solid back fist into your face. And again, that was happenstance. Even though I kind of had an idea of what I could do with that, going in that process of closing that gap. And once I was there, then I had to realize, okay, what can I do? Oh, I know. I'll do this. That's the biggest difference that I've seen from what we do and what everybody else kind of does.
Right, because you get an idea, because even that there was a bit of guidance in the idea that you wanted both of my hands tied up.
Right.
You wanted them to one side so it would free up you to do whatever it is, whether it would have been with a stick,
Right.
or you would have done a hook or a grab or a throw, whatever the case may be, but you wanted my hands tied up. So that was the first idea that you were playing with that you got to work. And you're like, okay, now I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh crap, what do I do? My stick is tied up. I still want to, oh, never mind, I'll just let go.
Yeah.
And then that was the solution.
And again, the idea is that we're not married to the sticks.
Right.
And we hear that a lot in a lot of, martial arts. You're not married to the weapon, or you shouldn't be. A lot of people feel that, oh, this is my sword. I'm never going to let this go because no matter what, I can't let go of this because I need this.
Right.
And that could be the furthest from the truth. When it becomes useless, where you can't do anything with it, if that becomes your struggling point, where
you want to hold on to it, yeah.
You're probably gonna get killed because your hands are both tied up.
You know me, I love movies.
Yeah.
So every time we talk about stuff like this, movies pop into my head, and right now I just thought of 13 Assassins.
Yeah. Yes.
Because the guy's even telling him, you don't have a sword, grab a stick. You don't have a stick, grab a rock. You don't have a rock, you better use your fist.
Yeah. But that's it, so you do what you can for the moment.
Right.
And whatever comes of it, comes of it.
Right.
And you have to be savvy enough to say, okay, that didn't work, let me continue. And keep going.
And how do you train that?
Yeah.
How do you progressively train that ability? Because it has to be an ability at some point.
Well, the ability then is a mindset.
Right, okay.
Danny would tell us, what were you thinking at that moment?
We dissect the mentality behind what happened.
Right, and you look at that and say, okay, why did you do what you did? Once I got your hands cleared out of the way, and I felt that since my hand had a stick, and I had to still check your hands,
Right.
both my hands were occupied.
Right.
So that was useless. That stick was not, and I'm so close that I can't really, because the moment I stretch out, I'm freeing up your hand. So I can't do that.
And we were back on equal terms.
I'm back on equal terms. So if I did this, I'm right here already. Let go of the stick. Luckily, I was close enough that I could actually hold it in my armpit.
Right. Otherwise, you would have dropped it.
Otherwise, it would have been dropped to the ground, and I would still do what I did. And that's just experience down the road that you start to learn certain things, and you remember things that, and I can hold it here and do what I'm going to do. But again, it is nothing that we train. We don't dedicate a half hour.
Well, that specifically,
and
skill set specifically.
Yeah.
But the mentality aspect, I feel that we train all the time. We
and again, it's how we think
right.
our fights are going to end up.
Messy.
Messy, definitely. Punches are being done, you're getting hit, he's getting hit.
Right. It's not it's going to be this beautiful choreograph. And again, I guess that's hard for some people from the outside looking in when we play, because they say, oh, it's so beautiful, you guys look like you're almost dancing. And I'm like, I had my head chopped off, my arm chopped off at one point, he hit my knee. Because in our minds we understand, okay, what those movements represented.
Right.
And anyone outside, they think, oh, they're just hitting sticks, and that's like furthest from the truth up here.
Right. Yeah. We understand where the pathways of our weapons are. We understand where the pathways of our opponent's weapons are, more important.
Right.
Like, just because our sticks clashed here, that wasn't the end of it.
No. That could have happened after we hit each other in the face or the arm or the leg.
Yeah.
It's all about, I think that there's definitely this great sense of honesty that you have to have with yourself.
Oh yeah.
And with your students.
Yeah.
To be able to just call out and say, look, this is what actually happened. And I'll be the first to tell you, sometimes your ego gets the best of you, and you don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
How many times have I challenged you? I'm like, BS, that's not what happened. And then you actually tap me, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he was, maybe he did. okay, yeah, he definitely killed me. He definitely
Right.
killed me. But to be able to accept that challenge, you as an instructor, to see that, okay, he doesn't believe it.
Right. And then you do have to show and indicate why did these things happen. Here, you remember this and you did that. I'm like, my hand was on your shoulder all that time, and I was writing my name on your shoulder. Rick was here, and you're like, oh, so we'll do a drill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, look where my hand is. You're like, oh.
And I figured eventually I stopped dismissing that so much that you just slapped me a few times. Like, did you feel it that time? It's like, yeah, Rick, I did.
But and you won't believe anything until you actually see it.
Right,
and say,
right.
Oh, is he just saying this stuff because I can't prove it or anything? And then we go to prove it.
And that brings something up because you did a talking story with Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of impromptu. You guys were just hanging out.
I know,
he put you on the
Dennis,
spot.
He tricked me. He invited me over for tacos. And,
Right. He was talking about tacos. This is good. Oh, how were the tacos, by the way?
It was good.
It was really good. All right.
Yeah, but I didn't have a taco. I had something else.
Oh, okay.
I had one of the rice plates.
Ooh, all right.
It was good.
Well, as long as the food's good,
Yeah.
you just put it in the tortilla. It's a taco. It's the same thing.
We're going in.
But you said something along those lines. You're saying the old mentality is those who cannot do teach,
Right.
and you hate that. You hate the idea that no, if I'm gonna teach somebody how to do something, I better know how to do
You
it.
really watched the show.
Yeah. Look, I'm a constant. I'm a student. I'm constantly trying to learn something new, even from the people that I train with on a regular basis.
Right.
So I watched it, and then I watched it intently, and I watched the videos that other people post. Great stuff, by the way, because it really gets my gears thinking. So when you said that, I was like, okay, he literally lives that example, though, that, no, I need to know how to do this if I'm going to teach you how to do it.
Right. And that is the most important thing that you can give to your students. When you're giving them knowledge, you better have that knowledge. You know what I mean? I mean, how stupid would I be if I'm just talking out of my ass, oh, do this, this, and this, on a baseless thing.
Right. Well, why?
Not even be able to show and prove that works the way it does. Danny and I have conversations after I have a class with you, and I talk to him about, oh, today I taught Nain this. And then he and I go over it.
What do you mean?
Yeah, and he and I go over it, and he'll be the first one to blast me if it's wrong.
Right.
And I have to state my case, and then and then we say, okay, all right, that is correct.
In that context, it was good.
Yeah.
Here's more to it.
That's the other part of it too. It's like we talk about, oh, this happened, but why? Why did that happen? What was the idea behind it? Why did you? Was
it a lucky shot?
Yeah.
Was it just reflex? Was it?
And were the circumstances correct for you to do that?
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things about Danny is that he'll tell you is like, why did you do that there? Was that the proper place for that?
Right.
And that used to always bother me because how the hell do you know what is the right place? It's like,
it's chaos.
You got a fight going on. You're doing all these things. It's like,
was that right?
No, Danny's gonna be mad. I think that was wrong. It's like, what do I do? Right?
Because he's always been that critical, but
yeah.
It's never been about seeing something specific.
No.
Not physically, anyways. But he wants to see that thought process that you went through in the mind, and in that moment, what was going on in your head?
Right.
That made that come out.
Right.
And if you didn't have any thoughts, then that was definitely wrong.
And that's what you start, and there's the intent that we talk about.
Right.
Because now when you're doing stuff, no matter how quick it's going to happen, you still have an intent of certain things that you don't have to be in there to be able to justify that, oh, well, I did that because I noticed his arm was swinging this way. I decided to parry it out, blah, 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 and throw an elbow because it seemed like the right thing to do and the best thing to do at that time.
All right, so I have a question for FMA people who work with sticks and have your angles and all like that. When you feed, do you always feed the same way?
Well, and I'll put in my 2 cents, right? We always talk about when you're first learning your angles, and for us it's a clock system.
Right.
So when I say feed me a 1 o'clock, that would be coming in at 1 o'clock, right?
On your left, my right.
And you say that to the student, give me a 1 o'clock, and in their minds, it's always 1 o'clock.
Right.
There is no deviation. You feed it the same way every time because that's what we're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a drill, right? It becomes a drill that 1 o'clock, 11, 5, 7, whatever. But that's what you're taught. And for everybody else, it'd be angles, right? There are 12 angles of attack, and they always follow that guideline. But when you go to application, it's impossible. You cannot feed the way you feed when you're in a class atmosphere.
No.
It's impossible.
And I came to the realization about the idea of what's really going on behind your head. Because even the idea of feeding within a class is impossible to duplicate exactly the same way every single time.
Right.
There's always going to be a change with the way you shift your body, the way you're feeling at that moment. Oh, again with this angle.
Chaos theory.
Exactly. There's always going to be a variance that will
prevent that from happening.
Exactly the same way. Yeah, we're not robots.
Right. It's impossible.
So if that happens in a controlled atmosphere where you have a specific angle, specific attacks, how much changes in a chaotic environment, like a fight, like a real fight?
You know, and that's why if you've ever, like, when we play, when you and I play, right, there are no more 1 o'clock, 11 o'clocks.
Yeah, no.
We just go at it, right?
Our 1 o'clocks look funny as hell.
They're 2:30, 2:35, 2:38.
But anyone looking outside, they're like, man, they're swinging hard.
Yeah. But in the advanced classes, what do I tell you about? What do I talk about? 360 ticks. Right? So now, not only is it just a regular clock, now we're talking about 360 degrees. So now it's degrees.
Clock in a sphere.
Yeah, right? It's now degrees. We're talking about 363 used to be my circle.
Mm-hmm.
So if my 1 o'clock is here, well, I might want to do it here. I'll cheat it all the way around.
Right.
And that's what, that's the advanced idea behind the clock system. And when you start to do that, then you realize you can throw that weapon out at any given time. Or, on the other end of it, when it's coming, intercept it at any one of those 360-degree ticks. So you start seeing the bigger picture, as Daniel said. You're now in the forest, and you're looking up on top.
Right.
And you're not just right there.
Looking at the trunk of one tree.
Right. You start to see everything and say, okay.
Right.
Now when that weapon is coming, do I wait for it to get here? Or can I attack it when it's way back here still? Or, at what point do I want to do it? Now it goes back to intent. Mm-hmm. What are you trying to do to this guy? Right? If we say we're going to hit first, even though they strike first, this is enough right here. Attack that now, before it gets to here, where it's more...
Right when it's about to go green light.
That's now intent.
It's now intent,
and you thrash the hell out of it.
Right.
But again, and it goes back to the idea that now it's a 360-degree tick, and at any point in that 360, you're going to attack whatever you need to attack, or take care of either side on either side of that fight.
Because even the progression of the fight, because we said so in the video that we added, we started off at long range and progressively got closer.
Right.
But even then, you have the before, the middle, and the after.
Yeah.
Of this particular story that is the fight. You have the person approaching you, are they talking to you, or are they just looking aggressive, did they just attack somebody? All these little details in the narrative that give you that sense of the bigger picture.
Right.
Now you're observing everything versus just, hey, you got shoved, you shoved back.
It's funny because Dennis, during that talking story, he talked about, well, when you come up across something, what do you do? And how do you assess that situation?
Ooh, I wanted to bring that up too.
Assessing a situation is tricky. Mm-hmm. Because first of all, like we had mentioned in the video, that
do you have all the information?
Yeah, who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy?
He just defended himself. It just looked bad because that's all I saw was him shoving that guy down.
I saw that little image of a window, that little window of that video, and I don't know who's who.
Right.
And when you come across that, you better be damn sure. Otherwise, you're beating up the wrong guy.
He's the hero of the story. Why are you beating him up?
Yeah. Oh, thanks. You just helped me. It's like Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you help the bad guy. He's like, what? It's not my problem.
Yeah, and then he kills his uncle.
Yeah. Yes, we have a lot of movie references, folks. We can do this all night. But along those lines, I wanted to bring that up actually in this particular conversation is... that ability to discern a situation for what it is, not for what we perceive it as. Now, there's a few